Hello and welcome to the Range Rover Sport SVR, and today I am at Guy Salmon, Southwest London, Jaguar Land Rover in Sunbury-on-Thames, where they have kindly given me access to any car I want. This is the first of a few that I'm going to film here today, and yeah, start off the bat, I love this car. I think it looks fantastic. I know people that have owned them and have loved owning them. They're such solidly made cars. You know, it's a lovely place to be. So let's start off with the exterior looks. I think it's one of the best looking SUVs on sale, and I think the Range Rover Sport in general always has been. But the SVR is the fast, shouty, aggressive one. So this has more aggressive front bumpers, a new hood, big exhausts out the back which look fantastic, better wheel options, fantastic seats. I know that's not exterior, but these are amazing seats, and a whole host of extra paint options and customization. Yeah, that's basically it. With the interior and its space, front, I have so much room. I have copious amounts of room, not an issue at all. Driving position obviously can be adjusted, but it will be excellent. I sit very central in the car. The steering wheel is really nice, and the cabin is really wide. This is not the first SUV that I've filmed on this channel, but it's not the first SUV I've been in, obviously. But it's really wide, you know, loads of space. Everything looks super impressive. In the back, there's also plenty of space. I've been there myself, and the view from the back of these bucket seats is really cool. Having the little gap in the middle, and the boot space is plenty. Obviously, it's a Range Rover. There's, you know, more boot space than you could ever really need. But yeah, practicality-wise, this car is obviously perfect. There's no point in comparing specific boot sizes. It's a boot, you know, doesn't really matter. Now, the interior quality. Obviously, the last car that you probably would have seen me film is one of the Ferraris. And is the interior on a par with them? No, but then I wouldn't expect it to be. But overall, I've heard a lot of people say the interior doesn't quite feel as expensive as it should. But I can't feel any issues in quality. The leather is really soft and it's really well textured. There's no cheap materials anywhere. Okay, there's plastic there, but it's not something you actually touch, is it? The roof lining is Alcantara, so are the visors. Solid aluminium down here. You can tell it's genuine because it's cold to the touch. There's even a refrigerator down there, so that's cool. But yeah, no, it doesn't feel as special as some of the other cars I've been in. It doesn't have that overall feeling of, you know, this is an expensive car. But you can tell this is an expensive car. The screen system, the elegant lines throughout the cabin. This definitely feels, well, this car exactly is £120,000 with all the options. That's about 20 grand's worth of extra options because it starts at around 100k. And it feels 120k to me, absolutely. I don't think the price is unjustifiable at all. Very happy in here. Now let's talk about the technology within this car, because there's a lot of it and it's all very clever and very good. However, I do want to highlight some flaws before I talk about the positives. A flaw is, I've heard that the system is slow, and I wasn't quite sure if that was exaggeration. But it is quite slow, and considering they've removed the buttons, it's just a touchscreen set up in the middle. In terms of while you're driving, to not knowing if you've pressed things can be very distracting. So, for example, if you're driving along and you want to change the radio, you will have to look down and swipe through some menus to change the radio, and then you'll have to press it and wait a couple seconds. Because it's taking a while, and then you're checking again and taking the eyes off the road because you're not sure if it's actually happened. So I can imagine that being quite a big issue. And comparing after using BMW's system, this is not as fast. It's by no means bad, by no means bad. It's very impressive, and for people that wouldn't have to live with it like me, just looking at it like this, I think it's really cool. Another thing I'm noticing, just off the side, that I'm getting a glint from the light off the lovely aluminium in the middle, and it is shining in my eyes. So that's a design oversight, but it's one of those things. Now, digital driver's display, the car isn't started, so it doesn't really show, but it looks really good. I've seen them in action before, very high res. Navigation works really well. I put in a few details and stuff like that, and it tells you if you've got enough fuel to do it or not, and where you should stop. It's a really advanced system. I haven't looked at the cameras because it doesn't work because of certain reasons, but I imagine they're all very good as well. So no, I'm impressed with it, but it's just, in general, the current trend in modern cars is to remove as many buttons as you can and replace them with as many screens as you can. And while that looks impressive and sounds impressive, in practice, it doesn't really work. And I don't know why companies are still pushing this, because every journalist I've ever seen review a car has always complained about that, including me now, because I've experienced it myself. There's no buttons for anything other than to change the heating and cooling. That's literally the only buttons here. So if I'm honest, that's not for me. It might suit some people, but for me, someone who I consider myself quite good with my technology, this is just not really good enough, in my opinion. It's not 120 grand, considering BMW have better systems in their 25 grand cars. So I mean, yeah, not really very good, but it's by no means a major fault when compared to the whole car. Because what you really buy this car for, I think, is the engine. It's not the performance, because the performance in terms of SUVs is very fast. It's 0 to 16, low 4 seconds, but it's, there are SUVs now doing it in 3.3 seconds, which is a full second faster than this. You're not paying for the performance. I think you're paying for the engine though, because 5 litre supercharged V8, 575 horsepower. It's such a good engine. We used to have a Jaguar F-Type in the family, and that was an R all-wheel drive, so 550 horsepower, and the noise that thing made on a summer's day with the roof down was ballistic. It sounded like a war zone just going on in the background. I love that engine, and I love the exhaust, and this is a bit more subtle because it's a Range Rover. It's supposed to be quite dignified, but when you put your foot down, there is nothing dignified about the way this thing sounds, or the rate at which it goes down a road. No, what you're paying for is the character of this car. This car starts at about £100,000 for the SVR model, which I think is actually really good value. And I know it's hard to say, £100,000 on an SUV, you must be joking. But no, a regular Range Rover Sport to start will set you back around 65 grand. And I configured one myself, and after a few options that you would want, and some paint and some new wheels, etc., and a slightly bigger engine. I think it was a 3 litre 6-cylinder. And that went up to about £95,000, and that's £5,000 or £6,000 less than the full-on SVR model. Because the way most Range Rover Sports are, there's one in front of me, are configured is around the £80,000-90,000 mark, which isn't very much less than this is. And you get that fantastic engine, you get these amazing seats, you get all the badging, you get the noise. I think it's worth it, and I think I've configured one of these, the SVRs, up to about £140,000-150,000, which is too much in my opinion. I think if you're talking about £100,000 to £130,000, yes, it's all fine. But if you start pushing 150 grand, that's Bentley territory, and then you got to compare this to something like a Bentayga. and a Bentayga would just blow this out of the water on the interior. That's just how it is. It's Bentley at the end of the day. But in terms of value for where this is at 100 grand compared to other Range Rovers, I think it's fantastic, and I wish I could afford one. You know, like I say, it's not all positives. The options on these are very expensive, and they don't come very well equipped to standard. So even if you're buying the Range Rover Sport SVR 100 grand, you're realistically going to spend about 15 grand more on options at least, for stuff like better leather, paint, wheels, tech equipment, stuff like that, which should be standard, but you know what you're going to do. All car companies do it. So yeah, not without its flaws. I will have to get behind the wheel of some other SUVs and compare them to this, because I think that's a good comparison. I might try and get a BMW X5M, because I think that's a very fair competition with this. It's exactly, you know, rivals. But on the whole, I'm impressed. I think it looks great. I know, even though I can't show you in the video, that it drives and sounds great. The interior feels really expensive and it looks really nice. And on the whole, great car, but not without its flaws. So if I try some other Jaguar Land Rover products today, I will once again assess the technology and see if it's as slow or if it's changed at all. So thank you for watching. Enjoy.